Clouds melt into rain. Snow packs down on glaciers. Small streams feed mighty rivers, great lakes, and the sea. The earth keeps turning. China's homeland enjoys spectacular mountains and abundant waters. The varied climatic conditions shape lives and livelihoods. Let's start from the heart of things, following the amazing creatures of the high mountains, tracing the source of the rivers, and voyaging across the seasons to see the great natural glories of China. In March, the Taklamakan Desert takes on a completely new look after just 6 hours of snowfall. The clouds have dressed the sand dunes in a new outfit. The hundreds of square kilometers of desert is covered with snow, strange and fantastic. The largest desert in China, the second largest shifting sand desert in the world, has come to a sudden standstill. Located right in the center of the Eurasian landmass, the Taklamakan Desert is the region of the world that is the farthest from any ocean. It's surrounded by plateaus and mountains to the west, north, and south. To its north is the world's largest independent mountain system, the Tian Shan Mountains. With a length of 2,500 kilometers and an average elevation of 4,000 meters, the Tian Shan Mountains block most of the water vapor coming from the Atlantic Ocean. Over 1,000 kilometers south of the Tian Shan Mountains lies the northern boundary of the Qinghai Tibet Plateau, the Kunlun Mountains. They have an average elevation of more than 5,500 meters. They cut out a long arc eastwards from the Pamir Plateau, wrapping tightly around the south of the Taklamakan Desert. Surrounded by mountains, the Great Basin caught between them is a dry world, largely bereft of clouds. This has allowed the rapid expansion of vast sand sea to encompass around 330,000 square kilometers. That's about the same size as Germany. In March, when the Earth's orbit around the Sun exposes more of the northern hemisphere, the windy season begins. The sand is swept up and shifted around, forming one of the largest sandy deserts in the world, with about 85% of its total area made up of shifting sand dunes. The varying strength and direction of the wind gives the sea of sand an unpredictable character and appearance. Every encounter is destined to present a new experience. But even in its deepest reaches, there is still life to be found. The layers of desert sandstone are pockmarked with holes caused by weathering. The owner of this one is a Mongolian rock agama, 15 centimeters long and covered with scales. The sandstone fortress provides not only shelter, but also paths for rapid travel. But the remote location makes it a lonely outpost. Even cold-blooded lizards need to interact with their own kind. Although there are countless ways to do so, their behavior is still quite striking. It seems to be some sort of greeting, and is certainly to make an impression. To the south of the desert, the snow in the Kunlun Mountains is starting to melt. The waters enter the valleys and then flow northwards into the Hotan River. Of all the rivers that flow into the Taklamakan Desert, only the Hotan River is large enough not to be swallowed up by the sands. More surprises can be found here with careful observation. To avoid predators, many small animals have become nocturnal. The Yarkand hare is native to the Taklamakan Desert and has a sensitive hearing. The northern three-toed jerboa is just out of hibernation and one of the harder-to-catch sights in the desert. It's small in size, but has large round eyes and surprisingly long legs. Its tail is almost twice the length of its body, making it look like a miniature kangaroo. It is said that as long as the jerboas have fresh plants to eat, they don't need water. As the sun rises, the temperature shoots up. Under its scorching heat, the ground surface temperature can reach up to 70 degrees Celsius. This rock agama hides in the shade and opens its mouth wide to try to stay cool. A beetle looks for shade from the relentless glare. The agama seizes its chance. After a decent meal, it can go a week without eating again. For the 6 months from March, the landscape will be prey to dust and sandstorms. In the desert's dusty hinterland lives an extraordinary bird. The xinjiang ground jay can barely fly. There are 4 species of ground jays, all of which live in Central Asia, and xinjiang ground jay is endemic to the Taklamakan Desert. Not only has it evolved sand-colored feathers, it has even given up most of its ability to fly and become an impressive runner. but it does occasionally lift off. Its secluded nest is hidden in the branches of a tree. After repeated checks, both parents return to the nest. Now is the critical period for hatching their chicks. They need to take turns in foraging and feeding their incubating partner. Although it's already spring, there's no fresh vegetation in the desert. During a lull in the wind, the jay seizes the chance to take a sand bath. Then it's back to work. It must dig up a meal from under the sand. It seems to have found something. The chicks are hatching one after the other. An unexpected trove of worms is much appreciated. When the sun sets, the temperature in the desert drops very quickly, and the nights are very cold. Luckily, the nest is thick and warm, made from painstakingly collected animal hair. Even if the temperature drops below freezing, it still protects them. In May, water vapor from the Atlantic and Arctic Oceans, after a long journey, starts to reach the Tian Shan Mountains on the northern side of the desert. Due to the dramatic gradient of the Tian Shan Mountains, almost all the precipitation falls in the valleys. Just occasionally, residual water vapor stretches into the desert and falls as rain, painting patches of red on the sea of sand, creating a pattern like a flamboyant satin. Since the average annual rainfall in the Taklamakan Desert is less than 100 millimeters, this is a rare sight. The Xinjiang ground jay chicks are now almost fully fledged. This is the key moment for them to leave the nest and step out into the desert. Answering the call of its parents, a young ground jay has stepped out of the nest. It is the boldest of the three chicks. Immediately afterwards, the pair return to the nest and continue calling to their remaining offspring. There is only one chick left, the weakest and shyest. The young ground jay still hesitates, so Dad shows it how one more time. After nearly half an hour of encouragement, the little ground jay finally emerges from the branches. There is still a long way to go. In the next 6 months, the young ground jays will need to learn not only how to fly, but also the skill of grubbing out worms from the sand. In the depths of the desert, another mountain range stretches east to west. The Mazartag mountain range is also called Red and White Mountains in Chinese. The reason is plain to see, with white dolomite rock shining on its northern side and dazzling red sandstone composing the main body of its southern side. It's the only mountain range in the Taklamakan Desert. Stretching for over 90 kilometers, it lies like a prostrate dragon holding back the sea of sand. At its eastern end, it meets the Hotan River from the Kunlun Mountains at a right angle and comes to a sudden end. Its presence not only serves to block the southward advance of the quicksand, but also creates a protective barrier for the oasis along the river's edge. Helped by this, the Hotan River continues northward across the desert, merging into the Tarim River in the north. The world's largest Euphrates poplar forest runs along the riverside. The forest covers an area of 1,320 square kilometers, and by October each year presents the most brilliant autumn scene. At this time of the year, large numbers of migratory birds pass through. This is one of their most important stops on the edge of the desert. In addition, a unique species of red deer lives in the riverside forest. The Yarkan deer is the only species of red deer that lives in the desert, and the vast Euphrates poplar forest is their ideal shelter. The stags can be up to 2 meters tall at the shoulder and are usually solitary. The fawns live in groups with the does, roaming and playing around in the forest. Today, the herd has inadvertently entered a new area. The area is the territory of the red fox. But the deer are too big for it to prey on. A strong territorial sense usually drives the fox to respond fiercely to intruders. After careful assessment, the fox decides that discretion is better and makes to ignore its outsized guests. Winter is coming. On the wetlands along the Tarim River, the action heats up. Cormorants, common cranes, and swan geese are heading off one after the other. Surprisingly, many choose to fly directly south over the sea of sand. This is the first time the migration over the Mazartag mountain range has been filmed. Black-eared kites also arrive at the Mazartag mountain range. This large group of raptors from the east are nearly 60 strong. The meeting point of the Mazartag and Hotan River is an important feeding station for them during their long journey. In the Taklamakan Desert, the sand and the wind are eternal protagonists. The annual high winds spread sand and dust across northern China and march the dunes to the east, little by little. At the southeastern end of the desert, the dunes seem to pause in their progress. The moving sea of sand is ensnared by reeds. The area is home to wild boars. The limited vegetation makes for a monotonous diet, especially in late autumn, when the roots and stems of the reeds are almost the only food available. Some migratory birds heading south use this place as a temporary rest stop. But there is little to eat. Taking care of its partner, this tern offers up its hard-earned delicacies. This wetland in the southeastern part of the desert is created by the Xinjiang River, which originates from the northern foothills of the Kunlun Mountains. 1,000 years ago, this whole area was a single great lake. Since then, the shifting desert has gradually pared the lake into 11 segments of different sizes. This cluster of lakes covers more than 500 square kilometers. Today, thanks to the implementation of ecological water transfer projects, the wet area has increased significantly. This largest desert in China continues to be a dynamic force, and its future is destined to exceed our imagination.